today with Nkhoma University, Malawi. Welcome to the Honorable Dr. Emily Grace Chiumia Whale as a Vice Chancellor. And for the topic today is the theoretical perspective of inclusive education, a revised medical disability model. And for today's session is being live streamed on the Universitas STEKOM YouTube channel. And now I will read our agenda this afternoon. First, we will start class presentation delivered by Dr. Emily Grace and continue with the Q&A session. Take a picture for documentation. Our last time is closing. Okay, let's begin. We will start class presentation delivered by Dr. Emily. The time is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Allow me to share my presentation first. Good afternoon, everyone. It is a privilege for me to be accorded this chance to share with you my presentation on the theoretical perspective of inclusive education, a revised model for medical disability model. I would like to first of all appreciate STEKOM University for according me this chance to do a presentation. It is an honor. And I would like to also commend the university commitment to research and also to collaboration. We are privileged as a University of Nkhoma in Malawi to partner with STEKOM University. We will go through the presentation, and this is my outline. We will look at the theoretical foundations of inclusive education, and then we'll look at the contribution from Vox's theories as it has informed inclusive education. And then we will look at the medical disability, the revised perspective. And then we'll also look at the complementary models. And then we'll finish with the implications for higher education. If you may allow me, because of the network issues, I will switch off my camera to allow some stability in terms of my network. Our topic this afternoon is on inclusive education with a focus on the theoretical perspective. We will start by looking at what theories are. I know it's something that is common, but for the purposes of this lecture, I would like us to look at theories. That theories are there to shape the way we understand, interpret, but also respond to disability in the context of our discussion this afternoon. Omland had described theories as a systematic and coherent set of ideas that are there to explain a phenomenon or what's happening, but they're also there to guide the practice. And theories are important. They are relevant because they shape policy, they guide policy, they also guide the implementation that is practiced, but also they guide research. Theories are relevant because they also influence how educators support learners with diverse needs. So in the context, in the field of inclusive education, theories are very important because they are there to also give a guide to those that are implementing services in education on how they can handle their learners. We'll look at different shifts in the in the perspectives of inclusive education. Starting with the medical model. The medical model in the field of disability looks at disability as an individual defect or a deformity, something, a deformity, a biological deformity that one is born with. But there is also a perspective that looks at disability from the social perspective, which defines disability as a product of the barriers and discriminations that are offered by the society. So it means from the social model, when you look at disability, it's something that is created by the society due to the barriers and the discrimination that comes from the community. While the human rights model perspective comes from the justice point of view. It looks at disability as an equality and justice issue. So this afternoon, I'll focus on theories and models, especially on the boxes perspective, will try to help us reframe the medical model into a tool that is inclusive rather than exclusive. Inclusive because it will bring in aspects that would help us to look at an individual with disability from a perspective that this person is not limited by the biological factors, but there's something that we can do. Is the biological aspect of the person do not actually define what the person is capable of doing. There's more that can be done. Coming to our context, both Malawi and Indonesia, we are situated in developing countries where inclusive education is a growing priority. And there are challenges, common challenges that are being faced in terms of infrastructure, in terms of training, in terms of also policy implementation. When we look at the policies for both countries, we still see that there are limitations and challenges that are impacting the provision of inclusive education. Being mindful that education is a human right, but when it comes to the individuals with disabilities, our nations are still faced with the challenges. So it means we're not there. We haven't reached to a point where the gaps have been closed. So today we will explore these theoretical frameworks, especially the revised medical disability model, which is informed by the boxes theory, which would guide inclusive education in our context as the nations. Allow me to bring you the 3-minute model. It's it's a description of the theoretical foundations by the one retired professor of biotechnology. Just a moment.
Hello, ma'am. Hello.
Hello, I hope you are following.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because your voice, we cannot hear you.
Okay. Oh, I was trying to play the video. Is it audible there or it's not?
No, the pulse. No,
Come
ma'am.
again?
No, no.
Okay, were you able to hear at first? Come again. Novita, can I get feedback if the video, if you've been able to follow the video from the beginning, because I've put it at the pause at the moment.
Oh yeah, yeah. All right.
Okay, so I can continue, right?
Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. Oh, sorry, technology. Allow me to go back to our presentation. Uh, anyway, I wanted us to have a brief description of the theological foundations that are looking at uh, the current theoretical foundations that revolve around the social cultural theory, which talks about learning as something that is socially constructed, that learning is a process, but it is a process that comes about as a result of the support that an individual gets from the other. And it emphasizes on the zone of proximal development, commonly known as the ZPD, which looks at what an individual is able to do, focusing on the limitations, how far one can do things, and what one is able to do with support. What it means is that, for example, I can do something to maybe 80%, but then as much as that is my individual limitation, I can get to 90, 95% or to 100% with support. This is where, and that process, the support that is provided to allow me to get beyond my capability or to perform beyond my capability, the process is called scaffolding. And this is where we talk about peer support. And this is where the role of teachers, the role of peers, and the role of environment in enabling the learners with disabilities to perform better comes in. So that's about the social cultural theory. But also another area that you've just seen is the social model of disability, which looks at disability as being created by the barriers that are in the society. That it's not from the personal deformities or deficits, but it's something that is brought by the barriers that are created in the society. So the focus here is to remove those barriers so that we can promote the participation of the individuals who have the disabilities and challenge discrimination to promote inclusion. The last thing that is being talked about is an element of universal design for learning. The universal design for learning provides a platform where curriculums are developed in a flexible manner that is inclusive of all of learners with diverse disabilities. So when we talk about learners with diverse disabilities, we're not just looking at those with disabilities, but we're looking at those with or without disabilities, that this curriculum should be developed in a way that it is accommodative. And in order to do that, the curriculum has to present a multiple way. It has to be represented in multiple ways. Or the content that is in the curriculum, it has to be presented in multiple ways that would help different learners to understand or to grasp the content. But it also emphasizes on multiple expression. Multiple expression would help learners to understand differently. The other way of describing this is the use of different teaching methodologies, different teaching approaches, because different learners learn in different ways. So the curriculum from the designing stage, it has to consider all these areas, but also a means of engagement. This is now from the implementation stage, that when teaching, the teacher or the lecturer has to consider how well can he or she use different modalities or different approaches in order to allow the learners stay motivated. And then there's also the capabilities approach. The capabilities approach focuses on what learners can do and what they can become. It is a kind of approach that brings equity. It allows freedom and opportunities for participation for all learners, regardless of their differences. It emphasizes on recognizing human dignity as an but also the potential that the individuals have. Now we'll come now to the main theory that has informed the revised medical model, and that is Vox's theories of inclusive education. So on that one, we've already looked at it as we're looking at the foundations, that saying that the social constructionist epistemology is the social perspective, whereby learning is considered as to be socially co-constructed process. By being co-constructed, it means you look at learning as something that happens when two or more people are together. It's happening in a group, and there's help that is provided. It emphasizes on the importance of support. It emphasizes on the importance of collaboration. The implication on this element is that teachers, peers, and as well as parents, they take a center stage. They play a critical role in enabling the learners to reach their potential. This aspect goes, well, it doesn't go without criticism. It is criticized that it underplays the biological predispositions, but for any theory, there's always there's also positive, but also there are areas that can be criticized. But the second element that I want us to focus on the Vox's theory is the theory of dysantogenesis, which defines disability as a distorted development. It looks at disability as a deficit, that distorted development, that it's not a disease, but it's an impairment, maybe in a way. So now the focus, there's a shift of focus from what we've been saying. This one emphasizes on interpersonal relations, and what happens is that when you're looking at disability as an impairment, then you look at the limitations that the person has. And what needs to be done here is to identify the hidden potential. But but if we look at it as an impairment that has no cure, that has no control, that's where the problem comes in. But when you bring it into practice, there's more that can be done. And this is where the revised medical model comes in, because the medical model looks at disability as something that can be controlled, as something that is biological, as something that needs to just be treated and cured and controlled, because it's like a disease. And most scholars have criticized the medical model as being oppressive, as being discriminatory, because it puts strong limitations to the individuals that have disabilities. The revised model is the one that is our point of focus. You can have the full description of this in my study, which is on the internet. It's a study on the investigation on the challenges of inclusive education, institutions of higher learning in Malawi. This is where I have taken my presentation from. It's from 2023, where I did an analysis of all the theories in the course of my dissertation. So the revised model now comes in to recognize the biological realities that, yes, biologically the deficits are there, these are biological issues, the limitations are there, but it does not stop at the recognition of the biological disability. It goes beyond the diagnosis. It informs tailored interventions, being informed by the process that we just see, the ZBD process, that one can do beyond his or her limitations. So the revised medical model says that a person with disability can do more if we apply tailored interventions by looking at specific disability and apply specific interventions. So this is used alongside the social and the human rights model to balance the biological and the social aspect. The practical implication will be like this, where you look at a learner with maybe visual impairment. The first thing that you do, you'd think about this learner is that this learner would need a medical recognition, would need a diagnosis, might need the help of glasses, might need the braille tools, might need the assistive technologies, but also need the social support, might need an access to the curriculum. So there are a number of things that can be done in order to help this learner. But also maybe the curriculum that is presented to this learner might be should be a curriculum that that would be inclusive enough to help him or her being able to learn. So the revised medical model helps implementers to design disability-specific teaching strategies and resources that would help them to do well and to perform successfully in their learning endeavors. Uh, I looked at what the Ministry of Education in Indonesia does. And one of the things is that it promotes inclusion, and also I noticed that there are also challenges that often schools or universities they lack resources in implementing the inclusive education. A reverse model would inform and maybe help, even as a university, to identify specific or tailor-made interventions, because you cannot put all learners with disability in a blanket. But these learners have to be treated as individuals and look at their individual disabilities, and then create interventions that are tailor-made to fit their their situation, so that while you're providing education, you're also maintaining the social justice values. A quick look at complementary models that I just mentioned: the social model, which talks about disability has been caused by barriers. This calls us to look uh, at any disability not just as an impairment or a biological issue, but that it's also the performance of the individual is being influenced by those that are around the person. For example, look at a student who is in a wheelchair. This student would not be considered to be disabled by the legs or by the inability to move around, but would be disabled by the stairs to the lecture hall, because maybe this person would not make it to the lecture hall because of the stairs. So what the social model here is telling us is that, sometimes the society, the community creates disability. It is not just about the biological makeup, but it's also how the community, how those around the individual, and even the infrastructure is presented to restrict, in this case, restrict this student in a wheelchair to get to the lecture hall. And in a in a situation, for example, in Malawi, we'll be talking about institutional barriers, like the same inaccessibility to the lecture halls, but also even in terms of resources. So our focus should be on removing those barriers to ensure that even the digital platforms that are there and the lecture halls are accessible. And the human rights model is there to help us consider disability as an equality issue, as an opportunity to offer justice, considering that education is a human right that you cannot negotiate it. Both Indonesia and Malawi have rectified the United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons of Disability that actually has ascribed to the provision of education, even to those that are with disabilities, and that's where inclusive education comes in. So together, we can use these modules to create a holistic approach where biological realities and the social barriers and rights-based considerations inform our inclusion. Um, this I'm just trying to show a pictorial medical disability uh, in context. the medical disability model in context that where are we coming from? We've looked at Vox's theory, we've looked at the social constructionism of epistemology, that where we've looked at knowledge being constructed, learning being constructed. We've looked at the place of the society. We've looked at the issue of justice. We've looked at the issue of the community in helping, bringing knowledge to the person with disability so that this person is able to learn. But we've also looked at the other hand, whereby we've looked at disability as something that is biological. And that's where the medical disability model is where it talks about that state as something that should be cured, controlled, and the like. But now we're saying, let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's look at it as much as we look at disability, but let's look at it as being diverse. That disability is right. It's something that is diverse, something that is different based on the individual. Therefore, we need diverse interventions in order to be successful. Now, let's come to implications. What are the implications for inclusive education in higher learning or in higher education in our institutions? For educators, what it means is that we need competencies in inclusive pedagogy. How can you provide help, support? How to differentiate instruction? This is a critical area where expertise is needed. And for institutions, this is where institutions would need to look at the policies that mandate inclusion. As much as we might have the national policies that might mandate inclusion, but if institutions do not have the policies that speak to inclusive education and disability, then the effort to provide diverse or tailor-made interventions to those that have disability would be limited. And also there's need for institutions to invest in assistive technologies. This is very, very important, the investment in assistive technologies and infrastructure, because that would allow access. I looked at an article that is written by Jalamundi and Konkolo. That it's a recent article which recommends investment in technological infrastructure which would bridge the digital divide. There has to be technology that speaks to the nature of individuals, that appeals to the individuals for them to be able to learn. And then there's also a place for the society where there has to be a shift in terms of attitude, a shift from pity, a shift from charity to equity and empowerment. That these are the individuals that have to be empowered. Create an equitable environment so that there's no self-pity, there's no charity, but give them power, give them potential, allow them to participate. So the society also has to change. There has to be a mindset change. And from the policy level, there's need to enforce rights while acknowledging the biological differences. There's also need to look at the institutional unpreparedness, because the institutional unpreparedness they violate educational rights. When an institution is not prepared for inclusion, what it does, it systematically segregates and limits the involvement and the participation of the learners with disability. For example, in Malawi, we have barriers in higher education. And these challenges, they range from lack of assistive devices, in access to facilities, and also an issue of policies. And the revised medical model, supported by the social and human rights model, is here to act as a framework to help us address these issues systematically. Tailor-made to STEKOM University, one way is to strengthen the ICT-based assistive technologies, the screen readers, the adaptive softwares, or create policy frameworks that can encourage inclusion in the technological programs. For us, in Malawi, we have similar struggles with infrastructure and resources, and the ICT partnerships can help and provide solutions. We have shared lessons that cross-cultural collaborations in inclusive technology can help to so that we learn from each other. We can learn what is Indonesia doing, how can Malawi learn from Indonesia, or what is Malawi doing and what Indonesia can learn from Malawi. And joint research on the challenges and best practices in higher education can also be a way to go. And it's also an area that can also add value to the partnership, where we do research together in areas of inclusive education, on the challenges or on the best practices. Allow me to conclude by saying that theories, they are like lens. They help us to look at disability in a way that is well defined, or they give us a framework on how to view disability. We've looked at Box's perspective of social construction and Genesis, which both highlight the social and the biological realities. That having looked at these both, they help us to have a broader perspective and also to make informed decisions. The revised model that we've just looked at tells us that when balanced with the social and human rights model, it offers a holistic approach whereby you're looking at the individuals with disabilities as individual human beings with diverse or different challenges who require different different interventions for them to be able to do well. And inclusive education requires both recognition of the biological needs, but also the removal of the social barriers. The removal of the social barriers is a duty that is accorded to us. And inclusive education is not about fitting the learners into a rigid system, but it is about transforming the systems to meet the needs of every learner. And inclusive education is a global challenge, but it is also a global opportunity. It's both a challenge and opportunity, because where there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. Therefore, it is an opportunity for us to explore. It is an opportunity for us to provide interventions. It is an opportunity for us to bring about service to those that are limited, because we live in a society and we live for each other. And other individuals can do beyond their ability with our support. And we've also looked at Vox's theories plus the revised medical disability model, that they are providing a perspective where we recognize biological impairment, we remove social barriers, but we also protect the human rights, and the partnerships between our institutions and pioneer inclusive strategies that combine both technology and policy to benefit all learners. Thank you for listening. This marks the end of my presentation. I'll allow questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation, ma'am. And we have 4 questions from participants. First, does the revised medical model of disability truly promote inclusion, or does it still center on fixing the individual rather than checking the system. The question already read in the Zoom chat also. Thank you.
Sorry, come again on the
Uh,
question.
the question already read in the Zoom chat also, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Or am I missing the question? Can't say it.
The question visible from your side, ma'am?
Can I have the question written in the chat box so that I should be able to read it, maybe?
I will read. First, Abdul, does the Reface medical model of disability truly promote inclusion, or does it still center on fixing the individual rather than change the system? The I'm
Okay,
ready.
if I get
Yeah, I'm ready. Chat in your WhatsApp also, ma'am, for the question.
okay. Okay, all right. Allow me to start with the question from Abdul, that does the revised medical model of disability truly promote inclusion, or does it still center on fixing the individual rather than changing the system? Um, the revised medical model, it's not there to actually fix the individual, but it is a way of accommodating everyone. Even in a class where there's no disability, we have learners who are for different abilities. We might have learners who are slow learners and others are average, and we might also have learners that are geniuses. And in the field of education, a teacher or a teacher has to make sure that he or she has approaches that are appealing to all the learners. So in the same, the reverse model is saying don't focus on the disability. Focus on the approaches that are tailor-made to appeal to all individuals. Approaches that are there to be able to address the needs of all learners, rather than focusing on this individual learner's disability. So it's not actually fixing the problem, but it's actually trying to create a flexible system, create a system that allows learning for all learners, be it with disability or without disability. So uh, from from my point of view, I see this as something that uh, allows educationists to create an environment that is flexible, but also to create systems that are accommodative. That's why I talked about that. Society should not act out of pity or out of charity, but empower the individuals so that they can perform to the best of their abilities, just like anybody else. So what you do in a normal to a normal individual, you also do to this one. But what you're doing, you are recognizing the differences that are there in this individual. Um, Another question is from Kenan. Can inclusive education exist within a framework that still defines disability through medical or deficit-based perspectives? On this one, in my presentation, one thing that I indicated is that when you look at the medical model talks about disability as something that it's like a disease. something that can be controlled, or something that has just to be cured. But this is where we're talking about the revised version. We're talking about looking at disability in a sense that you're looking at the individual who has a disability like any other individual, because two individuals are never the same. So you're looking at these people that are two, they're different, and what you need to do is to also approach to them in a different way. In other words, you're recognizing that yes, there are biological differences, but there are also areas where the society can come in. We're talking about the social construction of knowledge, where the society comes in to help this person to learn. What is it that the society can do? Can we create a conducive environment? Can we make our lecture halls accessible? Can we provide assistive technology that speaks to their their situation, or that speaks to their uniqueness? So that is where we're saying that if we do that, we're not focusing on the deficit, but we are focusing on the areas that can help us to provide tailor-made interventions that will help them to, or that will empower them into acquiring the education in the way that is inclusive, in a way like any other individual. But that requires deliberate effort. It requires strategic interventions, whereby deliberately you do it deliberately in a way that you would want this learner to get outmost from the learning or from the interaction. The third question from Corey says, how can educators balance the medical understanding of disability with the social human rights approaches in inclusion? All right, in a way, I've already alluded to this one, but I'll say what educators can do is, for example, when you look at the medical understanding, I'm saying you're looking at the biological. Look at this person as a biological individual, someone who is born or created in a different way. You look at there are things that biologically would limit this person maybe from performing better. And then when you come to the social aspect, you're looking at what is it that the society is adding to the limitation? What can the society do in order to provide enablers to the performance of this person? And from the human rights perspective, you're talking about equality. What any other person needs, for example, in terms of education, if every person needs education, means this person also needs education. So you're balancing. Everybody needs education. Yes. You're looking at the biological differences that the people have. That's number two. Number three, you're looking at, okay, now how is our society formed? What is the infrastructure like? How we also look at maybe the issues of curriculum. How is our curriculum made? Is it appealing to this individual? Is it speaking, or is it made in a way that will help this individual to fall or to be motivated into learning? So those three, they come together. That's where I'll say, when you look at the revised version, it is just bringing all these things together. It's bringing the medical so that you do not overlook the biological aspect. But it is also bringing the society, that there's a place for the society. There's a place for us. There's a place for our support. But there's also a place where we also look at, the laws are saying this is a human right issue. We need to provide justice. Everybody needs education. Education is a human right. So if it's a human right, let everybody have access to the human right. The last one of the questions that I have is that, does inclusive education challenge societal norms about ability and normality? Okay. Does inclusive education challenges societal norms about ability and normality, or does it reinforce them under new terms? Thank you, Zano. Uh, in my presentation, one of the things that I've said is creating a platform where it there's need for the society to have a mindset change, not to feel for for the individuals with disabilities, but it has to create an environment that empowers them, that they feel as part of the society. So it is not there to create a different or different norms. It's not there to create different things, but it is there to bring the society to a level whereby it sees everybody as part of the society. It accommodates everybody. It's an accommodative tool whereby everybody is part of the society, regardless of who he is, what he is, how it's made biologically, what are the limitations, and what are the potentials that the person has. So these are not necessarily new terms, but I think a shift in the way we think, a shift in our mindset.
Uh, Hello, ma'am. Hello. Oh, yeah. Uh, I think our request no one assessing again. Before I do participant, for our participant, please open your camera. I will take a picture on top of three for documentation. Okay, one, two, three. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your good cooperation. Finally, we come to the end of this lecture today. We'd like to thank you for speaker today for the wonderful information. Yeah. Thank you so much for participant for joining and have a nice day and goodbye and see you soon.